How's it going, you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs, and today I want to quickly walk you through how to fasten something to a brick wall. Now, there are numerous less than ideal approaches, and many DIYers kind of struggle through this type of project, but I just want to show you a few tools and fasteners that will make this much more approachable to you and give you the finished result you're looking at. We'll just go through a simple example. I'll go ahead and fasten this hook on the wall, so let's jump into it. Now, when it comes to drills, you have a few different options. Most of us are going to be most familiar with a combo, your cordless drill that has a hammer drill feature. Usually you have a selection dial. You can dial in how much torque you want to deliver. You can dial it to the drilling function, or you can go to the hammer icon, which is the hammer drill function. Now, the big pro of this is you probably already have this tool in your arsenal, so you don't have to go buy another drill specifically for this application, but you probably will have to go ahead and get yourself a masonry drill bit, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into those bits here in a second. But I want to show you the other options you have for drills, which are actually much better at drilling into brick or cinder block or into the mortar itself. So next up, I picked this one up specifically for my Makita cordless setup. It's a rotary hammer drill, and it is wildly more effective than just your standard that we just showed you. Why is that? Well, the actual hammering feature is completely different, and there's actually an internal piston here that's able to provide substantially more force or chipping force as you're drilling your hole. I highly recommend, if you're doing anything more than just one hole, you're doing a larger project, you either rent, which is probably $30 to $40 for the tool itself for the day, but don't forget, you're still going to have to buy your bits that you need for your actual project. Or alternatively, if you don't want to invest something like $200 to $250, what you would get with something like this, you can go to something like Harbor Freight, and usually for about $100, you can pick up a rotary hammer drill. Again, it might not be ideal for those using it every day, but for us DIY homeowners, it might be perfect for your actual project. And then lastly, we have another rotary hammer drill, but this starts to get into a lineup that increases substantially in size. Not only will this be a really solid hammer drill for you, but it also goes into like a demo range where you can just use it to hammer. Maybe you're taking out an old sidewalk, or you're removing some stubborn flooring, where you can put some spades and other bits off of this rotary hammer drill and just use the chipping hammer function, which can be very handy in the future. This one specifically is corded and packs quite the punch, even over that Makita cordless I just showed you. And then for drill bits, you're going to need to pick up some masonry drill bits. For any anchors or plugs, you're going to need exactly sized drill bits so that the anchor and plug work correctly. Now, if you have your standard cordless drill, you're going to want to get one that will go into your standard chuck here, with no fancy design here on the end. And what do I mean by the fancy design? Well, once you get into the rotary hammer drills, you often are going to have a completely different design, and this is called SDS Plus. What this design does, it actually holds the bit within the chuck, so it will translate the rotation for the drilling force, but it also allows back and forth movement, and that's where that piston translation for the chipping force comes from for the hammer function. Now remember, this is called SDS Plus. This is pretty much a standard that you're going to be able to take your masonry bits across different brands. And then once you kind of get into this SDS Plus lineup, obviously you can get multiple different size bits, but then you start to step up into chisels and other kind of demo attachments where you would rotate your selection just to the hammer, and then that would help you break out concrete or different materials in your demo jobs. Just know this is SDS Plus. They also make a very similar design to this, but much larger diameter, called SDS Max. So if you rent a very large hammer drill, you might need to get the SDS Max. So just be careful to make sure you understand, is it SDS Plus or is it SDS Max? So when it comes to masonry, a brick wall specifically in this case, the biggest question for homeowners is, hey, can I drill into the mortar or do I drill into the brick itself? Now, depending on the condition of your mortar, this is actually in pretty good condition, but if you have a very old home, there's a good chance your mortar is really starting to break down and you need it actually actually repaired through a process called tuck pointing. Well, if you just have that cordless drill / hammer drill and you try to drill into this brick, it can be extremely challenging, especially if you're like up on a ladder and you can't apply much force to the actual surface. It can be a bear just to get that hole drilled. So for this application, I have 2 different holes. I'm actually going to both drill into the mortar, show you how fast that is. I will do that with just that cordless drill in the hammer drill feature, and then we'll start to drill into the brick. Something tells me it's going to be a little bit challenging, so then we'll bring out the rotary hammer drill and show you how much more effective that is at drilling into brick. So starting off, I'm just going to mark my locations with the Sharpie. I don't want to be too close to the edge of a brick whenever I'm drilling, so I'm going to try to get that close to the middle. Then I'll take a punch and I'll actually punch a few times here, both of those locations. What I'm trying to do is I want to make a small divot, and then that divot is going to allow the point of the masonry bit to actually stay in the center and not walk or move around during the drilling process. So you go ahead and tighten up your chuck on your standard cordless in the hammer setting and actually turn it in the opposite direction to lock in that bit. And then also mark your depth on your drill bit with just a piece of tape. Here we're drilling through. That took about 18 seconds. This is going 2x speed. Then we're going to go ahead and go into the brick with our standard hammer drill. Again, this is going to be much harder and take quite a bit longer. Again, this is running 2x speed. But I am making progress. So I'm going to stick with it, and I'll let you know how long this takes. But I do want to compare that to the actual rotary hammer drill, which is right here and is a completely different beast. So that was pretty quick. I'm not sure if you caught that. Remember, 18 seconds to drill out with the standard cordless and the hammer setting for our mortar. It took 42 seconds to drill out brick. I was actually a little surprised that I was able to drill out that brick, and this was a 5/16 masonry drill bit. But then switching over to the hammer drill, 6 seconds. So you can see dramatically different when you actually have a rotary hammer drill. So just take that into account depending on what project you're doing at home. If you have multiple holes to do, really look into a rotary hammer drill. It'll make it so much easier. So now what about the actual anchors? What do we actually sink in here to apply a strong hold? The most popular are called Tapcons. Now, I'm not sure if that's because of marketing or because of their actual effectiveness, but they actually are not my favorite. I'll show you what I'm going to use here in a second. For Tapcons, because they are so popular, let's touch on the 2 basic things that people do wrong. The first major mistake is people get the wrong drill bit. It says 3/16. That is the actual size of the Tapcon itself. That is not the size of the drill bit needed. If you use that drill bit, these will not hold nearly as much force as if you use the appropriate drill bit, in this case, which would be a 5/32. So just make sure you get the right drill bit. It's super confusing because you see the big 3/16 up here, and then there's tiny writing on the side that actually tells you your drill bit sizing. And then the second major mistake is over torquing those. Now that is especially true when it comes to mortar. The mortar is not going to be very forgiving if you're over torquing that. Then the threads of the Tapcon will actually strip out that hole and you'll have no holding force. So just be careful of those 2 things if you're using Tapcons. And also I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Do you love Tapcons, or do you also struggle with them with the over torquing and possibly not getting the right drill bit size? So what do I use? Well, I stick with something very simple, and that's called a wall plug. This is a number 14 size wall plug. It's only 1 inch in length. You can get these in obviously a multiple different sizes, and then you just use a number 14 screw with the proper length, and then also if it's exterior, use an exterior rated screw, and then that's what you're going to use to hold it in. So let's go ahead and use these wall plugs for that hook that we want to install. I'll just start off by tapping in those wall plugs, and we'll get them almost to the outside surface, but then I want to actually sink them below the surface. And I'll do that by threading in the screw that I'm going to be using, and then tapping that screw in to set the plug actually below the outside surface, making sure I can tighten those screws all the way down. Then I'll put the hook in place, and I'll just start to set those screws. These are number 14 lag screws, exterior rated, nice broad head, and work perfect for this application. I won't over tighten them, just like you wouldn't for Tapcons. But then once I get everything cinched down, I will do a nice pull test, making sure it's nice and secure. Now, hopefully that helped you guys out. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper, specifically in anchoring things to concrete, for me, this specifically comes in, maybe I want to set a 4x4 post and a bracket in concrete for a railing or an exterior project. Check out this video right here. I'll go through all the ins and outs. I'll show you a bunch of different types of anchors, which one I prefer, and also we'll touch on how to correct if you make a mistake along the way. So thanks for joining me on this video, and we'll catch you on that next one. Take care.